A chance at redemption. The emergency ward's lights flickered as another explosion rocked the outpost. Dr. Marcus Reed steadied himself against the operating table, his weathered hands gripping the metal edge. Through the reinforced windows, flashes of artillery fire illuminated the perpetual dust storms of Outpost 7. The war with the Zephyrians had dragged on for 3 years, turning the frontier colonies into battlefields. Incoming critical. The alert system blared through the medical bay's speakers. Marcus grabbed his trauma kit, muscle memory taking over as he rushed toward the receiving area. The blast doors parted with a hydraulic hiss, revealing a sight that made even his battle-hardened nerves falter. 2 Marines carried in a stretcher, their armor caked with the distinctive blue-tinted soil of the outer reaches. On it lay a Zephyrian scout, her crystalline skin fractured and dulled, a sure sign of critical condition among her species. What caught Marcus's attention wasn't her injuries, but the unusual patterns of light pulsing beneath her transparent epidermis, something he'd never seen in any of the Zephyrian casualties he'd treated. Found her in the wreckage of their scout ship, one Marine reported, his voice tight with barely concealed animosity. Orders were to bring any survivors for interrogation. Marcus nodded absently, his medical scanner already mapping the extent of her injuries. The Zephyrian's core temperature was dropping rapidly, her crystalline structure showing signs of cascading failure. Without intervention, she had minutes at most. Clear the room, he ordered, reaching for the experimental biosynthetic fusion unit. It was meant for human tissue regeneration, but with modifications. And get me Dr. Patel from Xenobiology. Now. As the Marines hesitated, Marcus fixed them with a steel gaze. That's an order. This is my medical bay. They retreated, leaving him alone with his unconscious patient. The Zephyrian's eyes snapped open, swirling pools of silver that fixed on him with startling clarity. Finish it, she whispered in halting English, her voice like wind through crystal. End me, human. Not today, Marcus replied, calibrating the fusion unit. I'm Dr. Marcus Reed, and you're going to live whether you like it or not. A bitter laugh escaped her cracked lips. Why waste resources on enemy? The question gave him pause. Around them, the sounds of battle continued, a constant reminder of the war that had claimed millions on both sides. Marcus thought of the oath he'd taken, not just as a military doctor, but as a healer. Because healing isn't a resource to waste, he said finally, preparing the biosynthetic compound. It's a gift to share. Now, I need to stabilize your core structure, and I won't lie, this is experimental treatment. What's your name? She hesitated, internal lights flickering weakly. Naira. Scout First Class. Well, Scout First Class Naira, I'm about to attempt something never done before. The biosynthetics should bond with your crystalline structure, reinforcing it while you heal. But I need you to fight. Can you do that? The look she gave him was complex, doubt, fear, and something else, something that might have been hope. She nodded once. Marcus worked through the night, carefully binding the experimental compound to Naira's damaged crystal matrix. Each successful fusion site glowed with a soft blue light, spreading gradually across her broken form. Dr. Patel arrived an hour in, her expertise in Zephyrian physiology proving invaluable as they pushed the boundaries of both human and alien medical science. Dawn was breaking when Marcus finally stepped back, exhausted but satisfied. Naira's vital signs had stabilized, her crystalline skin now laced with delicate patterns of biosynthetic reinforcement that pulsed in rhythm with her core energy. You actually did it, Dr. Patel whispered, reviewing the medical scans. The fusion is holding. This could change everything we know about interspecies medical treatment. Marcus watched as Naira slept, her restored form casting prismatic patterns across the medical bay walls. Maybe that's exactly what this war needs, he murmured. A reminder that we can do more than destroy each other. Little did he know, as he logged the procedure's success, that this single act of healing would set in motion events that would challenge the very foundations of the conflict. The war had brought him a patient, but healing her would bring him something far more valuable, a chance to prove that even in the darkest of times, humanity's capacity for compassion could light the way forward. Trust through treatment. Word of the unprecedented medical procedure spread through Outpost 7 like wildfire. Within days, the medical bay became a focal point of both hope and tension. Marcus found himself under increasing scrutiny as military officials and xenobiologists crowded his ward, all eager to witness the results of the experimental treatment. Naira's recovery defied all expectations. The biosynthetic mesh had not only stabilized her crystalline structure but seemed to be enhancing it. Her natural bioluminescence, once dim and erratic, now pulsed with steady strength. The intricate patterns of the fusion sites created mesmerizing displays of light that danced beneath her transparent skin. The integration is remarkable, Marcus explained to Commander Ellis during the daily briefing, displaying holographic scans of Naira's healing process. The biosynthetics aren't just repairing the damage, they're adapting to her physiology in ways we never anticipated. The commander's expression remained neutral, but her eyes betrayed keen interest. And the military applications of this technology? With respect, Commander, I'm focused on the medical implications, Marcus replied firmly. This could revolutionize trauma care for both species. After the briefing, Marcus returned to find Naira attempting to stand for the first time since the procedure. Her movements were cautious, each shift sending ripples of light through her reinforced crystal matrix. Dar. Patel hovered nearby, recording every detail of the recovery. Your stubbornness rivals any humans, Marcus remarked, moving to support her as she wavered. Naira's silver eyes met his, a hint of amusement breaking through her usual reserve. Perhaps that's why your treatment worked. Stubbornness recognizes stubbornness. Their moment of levity was interrupted by the arrival of 3 more Zephyrian casualties, victims of the ongoing battles. Marcus noticed how Naira's light patterns shifted, darkening with concern as she watched him treat her wounded compatriots. They fear you, she said later that night, while Marcus checked her fusion sites. My people. They've been taught that humans are capable only of destruction. Marcus's hands stilled on his scanner. And what do you believe now? I believe. She paused, internal lights flickering thoughtfully, that both our species have much to learn from each other. Their conversation was cut short by an urgent call from the intensive care unit. One of the new Zephyrian patients was destabilizing, their crystalline core approaching critical failure. Without thinking, Marcus rushed to help, Naira following despite protests from the guard stationed at her bed. In the ICU, Marcus found himself facing a complexity of crystal degradation he hadn't encountered before. The patient's core was fragmenting in a pattern that defied standard treatment protocols. The resonance is wrong, Naira said suddenly, her voice carrying an authority that made even the suspicious medical staff listen. Our cores respond to harmonic frequencies. Your biosynthetics, they need to be tuned. Marcus looked at her, then at his dying patient. In that moment, he made a decision that would either save a life or end his career. Tell me how. Working together, they modified the biosynthetic compound, adjusting its molecular structure to match Zephyrian harmonic patterns. Naira guided the process, her own enhanced crystal matrix serving as a template. Hours passed in intense concentration, the ICU staff watching in amazement as human and Zephyrian technology merged into something entirely new. The patient stabilized just as dawn broke over the dusty horizon. Marcus sat heavily in a nearby chair, exhausted but satisfied. Naira stood nearby, her reinforced crystal structure glowing with exertion and something that looked remarkably like pride. You trusted me, she said quietly, after the immediate crisis had passed. Why? Marcus thought about the question as he watched the sunrise paint her crystalline form in shades of gold and rose. Because healing isn't about trust or distrust, friend or enemy. It's about preserving life, wherever we find it. News of their cooperative breakthrough spread quickly through both human and Zephyrian channels. More wounded Zephyrians were brought to Outpost 7, some even voluntarily surrendering to receive treatment. Each success strengthened the growing belief that cooperation between species was possible. But with every victory came increased attention from both military commands. Marcus began finding surveillance devices in his medical bay, and Naira reported heightened interrogation attempts from intelligence officers. Their medical collaboration was becoming something more, a symbol that threatened the very foundations of the conflict. As Marcus updated his medical logs that evening, he caught Naira watching the distant firefights through the ward's window. Her light patterns had shifted to a deep, troubled blue. "They're coming," she said softly, not turning from the window. "My people. They've learned of what we've accomplished here. They won't allow it to continue." Marcus moved to stand beside her, watching the flashes of battle illuminate the night sky. "Then we'll have to show them something worth believing in." Breaking protocol. The medical bay's night shift was interrupted by the arrival of an unexpected visitor. General Victoria Hayes strode through the doors, her pristine uniform a stark contrast to the dust and grime of the frontier outpost. Marcus straightened from where he'd been adjusting a patient's biosynthetic infusion, immediately noting the data tablet in her hands. "Dr. Reed," she said, her voice carrying the weight of authority. "Your recent medical innovations have attracted attention at the highest levels. The biosynthetic fusion process you've developed could revolutionize our battlefield medicine." Marcus felt Naira's crystalline form tense beside him, her light patterns shifting to a wary amber. Over the past weeks, she had become his unofficial assistant, her knowledge of Zephyrian physiology proving invaluable in treating her wounded compatriots. "With respect, General, this technology was developed for healing, not warfare," Marcus replied, keeping his voice level. The general's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Everything in a war zone is warfare, Doctor. We've analyzed the data from your treatments. The potential military applications are significant. Imagine our soldiers with crystal-reinforced armor, biosynthetic enhancement." "No." The word came from Naira, her voice sharp as fractured crystal. "You don't understand what you're suggesting. The harmonics involved, the resonance patterns, they could be weaponized. Used to shatter our core matrices from a distance." General Hayes turned to her, eyes narrowing. "So you've already considered the tactical implications?" The tension in the room crystallized into something dangerous. Marcus stepped forward, deliberately placing himself between Naira and the general. "My research isn't for sale, and my patients aren't test subjects." "That's not your decision to make, Doctor." The general's voice hardened. "As of now, all your research is classified. The Zephyrian prisoner will be transferred to our main research facility for further study." "I'm not your prisoner anymore," Naira declared, her reinforced crystal structure pulsing with defiant light. "I'm a medical assistant, protected under coalition healing rights." The general's laugh was cold. "Rights? You're an enemy combatant who—" An explosion rocked the outpost, closer than any before. Alarms blared as emergency protocols activated. Through the window, Marcus saw multiple Zephyrian ships descending through the dust-filled sky, their crystalline hulls gleaming like deadly jewels. "They're here," Naira whispered, her light patterns shifting to deep crimson. "The Crystalline Dominion's elite forces. They're not just coming for me, they're coming to destroy any trace of the biosynthetic research. They fear what it represents." Marcus's mind raced. The medical bay held dozens of patients, both human and Zephyrian, many too unstable to move. The biosynthetic treatments had created a delicate balance in their healing processes. Any disruption could be fatal. "General," he said urgently, "we need to evacuate the critical patients. If those ships breach our defenses—" Another explosion cut him off, this one taking out the outpost's eastern shield generator. Through the chaos, Marcus saw something in Naira's expression change. Her light patterns shifted to a complex frequency he'd never seen before. "There's something else," she said, her voice tight with conflict. "The attack force, they're led by Corps Commander Vex. She hesitated. "He's my father." The revelation hung in the air like crystalline shrapnel. General Hayes's hand moved to her sidearm, but Marcus stepped forward again, his decision already made. "Your father or not, we have patients to protect. Both human and Zephyrian. Are you with us?" Naira's answer came in the form of action. She moved to the medical bay's control panel, her crystal-enhanced fingers dancing over the interface. "I can modify the outpost's shield harmonics to match the biosynthetic frequency. It won't stop them completely, but it will slow them down." "This is treason," General Hayes warned, but her tone had shifted from threat to calculation. "For both of you." "No," Marcus countered, already preparing emergency evacuation protocols. "This is healing. The very thing we're supposed to be fighting for." The next hours passed in a blur of urgent activity. Marcus and Naira worked seamlessly together, stabilizing patients for transport while modifying the outpost's defenses. The biosynthetic technology that had bridged their physiological differences now served to protect them all. Through the ward's windows, they could see the crystalline Dominion's ships taking position. Their crystalline weapons charged with deadly purpose, creating aurora-like displays in the dusty atmosphere. "Your father," Marcus said quietly to Naira during a brief moment of respite, "he needs to see what we've accomplished here. Not just the medical breakthroughs, but this." He gestured to the ward where human and Zephyrian medical staff worked side by side to save lives. Naira's light patterns swirled with complex emotions. "He believes he's protecting our species' purity. The biosynthetic fusion represents everything he fears: change, adaptation, cooperation. Then we'll show him something worth believing in instead." Marcus checked the latest shield modifications. "Fear against hope. Destruction against healing. It's time to prove which is stronger." As if in response to his words, a communication request flashed across the medical bay's screens. The crystalline face that appeared was an older, more angular version of Naira's features, his light patterns pulsing with cold authority. "Corps Commander Vex," General Hayes acknowledged, having apparently made her own decision about where she stood. "Father," Naira said, stepping into view. "Before you fire, there's something you need to see. The battle for truth." Corps Commander Vex's crystalline features hardened as he took in the scene before him, his daughter standing proudly beside a human doctor, her form enhanced with biosynthetic modifications that pulsed with steady, healthy light. "You've allowed them to contaminate you," he said, each word sharp as crystal shards. "Everything we've fought to preserve is still here," Naira interrupted, her enhanced crystal matrix glowing brighter. "Father, what you see as contamination is evolution. Growth. Look around you." Marcus activated the medical bay's holographic displays, showing real-time footage of the ward. Humans and Zephyrians worked together, the biosynthetic technology bridging physiological gaps that had once seemed insurmountable. Injured crystals were healing, stronger than before. "Your own forces are dying needlessly," Marcus added, his voice firm but compassionate. "We can help them. We already have." Commander Vex's eyes narrowed. "Help them become abominations. Half-breeds of crystal and synthetic matter. Would you rather they become corpses?" General Hayes stepped forward, her military bearing matching the commander's. "Your daughter isn't just alive because of our medicine, she's thriving. The biosynthetic fusion has enhanced her natural abilities while preserving her essential nature." As if to demonstrate, Naira raised her hands, letting her internal light flow through the biosynthetic pathways. The resulting display was breathtaking, pure crystalline energy dancing in perfect harmony with human technology. Several of the Zephyrian patients in the ward began to resonate in response, their own healing matrices synchronizing with her frequency. "This is what they fear," she said softly, addressing not just her father but all who watched. Not that will be destroyed, but that will change. Grow. Become something new together. An explosion rocked the outpost, breaking the moment. Through the windows, they could see more crystalline Dominion ships approaching, their weapons charging. Your ship's crystalline cores, Marcus said suddenly, an idea forming. They operate on the same harmonic principles as your bodies, don't they? Naira's light patterns shifted as she caught his meaning. The biosynthetic frequency, if we broadcast it through the outpost's communication array. It could stabilize their weapons without damaging their ships, Marcus finished. Show them healing instead of destruction. Commander Vex's image flickered as another blast hit the shields. You wouldn't dare. Watch us, Naira replied, her fingers already dancing over the medical controls. Marcus joined her, their movements synchronized through weeks of working together. General Hayes barked orders into her comm unit, coordinating with the outpost's engineering team. The next few minutes were a blur of desperate activity. As crystalline Dominion ships moved into firing position, Marcus and Naira worked to modify the outpost's transmission array. The biosynthetic frequency that had saved so many lives now became their shield and sword, not to destroy, but to demonstrate. When they activated the broadcast, the effect was immediate and stunning. The charging weapons on the Dominion ships flickered, their destructive harmonics disrupted by the healing frequency. But instead of shutting down, they began to resonate with the biosynthetic pattern, creating aurora-like displays in the dusty atmosphere. Impossible, Commander Vex whispered, watching as his mighty fleet was transformed into a light show of healing energy. No, Father, Naira corrected gently. Inevitable. Life finds ways to adapt, to heal, to grow. That's what both our species have in common, the drive to become more than we are. Through the ward's windows, they could see the Dominion ships holding position, their crew likely as amazed as their commander at the display of harmless but beautiful energy. The biosynthetic frequency had turned weapons of war into beacons of possibility. Your entire assault fleet, General Hayes observed dryly, just received a demonstration of what cooperation between our species can achieve. I imagine that will be difficult to explain to your superiors. Commander Vex's expression was unreadable, but his light patterns had shifted from aggressive red to thoughtful blue. You've changed everything, he said finally, looking at his daughter. No, Marcus interjected, standing beside Naira. We've just shown what was always possible. The choice of what to do with that knowledge, that's what changes everything. The medical bay fell silent as everyone waited for the commander's response. The future of both species hung in the balance, crystallized in this moment between destruction and healing, between fear and hope. Commander Vex's next words would determine whether their medical breakthrough would become a bridge between worlds or the spark that ignited an even fiercer conflict. But whatever came next, Marcus and Naira had proved that the greatest victories weren't won through force of arms, but through the courage to heal instead of harm. A new dawn. 3 months after the standoff at Outpost 7, the medical facility had transformed into something unprecedented, the first joint Human-Zephyrian Medical Research Center. The dusty frontier outpost now gleamed with crystalline architecture integrated seamlessly with human engineering, a physical embodiment of the cooperation that had bloomed from a single act of healing. Marcus stood in his newly expanded laboratory, examining the latest results of the biosynthetic trials. Beside him, Naira's crystal form cast prismatic patterns across the holographic displays as she analyzed the data. Her father's decision that day had set in motion changes neither species had imagined possible. The integration rates are improving, she noted, her light patterns pulsing with quiet satisfaction. The new patients are adapting to the treatment twice as fast as the early cases. Thanks to your insights into crystalline harmonic patterns, Marcus replied, remembering how far they'd come from that first desperate experiment. The Coalition Medical Board is calling it the Reed-Naira Protocol. She turned to him, silver eyes sparkling. They insisted on putting your name first, despite my objections. Well, I insisted on including yours, despite your father's objections, he countered with a smile. Commander Vex's acceptance of the biosynthetic program hadn't come easily. It had taken weeks of negotiations, demonstrations, and careful diplomacy. But the evidence was undeniable. Patients treated with the combined technology recovered faster and grew stronger than ever before. What had begun as emergency battlefield medicine was revolutionizing both species' approach to healing. Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Patel rushing into the lab, her excitement palpable. The preliminary results from the crystal matrix regeneration study just came in. You both need to see this. The holographic display filled with new data, evidence that the biosynthetic treatment wasn't just repairing damaged crystal matrices, but actually improving them. The fusion of human and Zephyrian medical science was creating something entirely new, something better than either species had achieved alone. It's beautiful, Naira whispered, reaching out to touch the hovering images. Her own enhanced crystal structure resonated with the displayed frequencies, creating a symphony of light and energy. General Hayes chose that moment to enter, accompanied by a delegation of both human and Zephyrian officials. Among them was Commander Vex, his crystalline features as stern as ever, but his light patterns showing hints of pride when he looked at his daughter. Dr. Reed, medical specialist Naira, the general addressed them formally. The Coalition Council has reached a decision regarding the expansion of the joint medical program. Marcus and Naira exchanged glances. They'd submitted an ambitious proposal weeks ago, a network of combined medical facilities across contested territories, offering treatment to both species without discrimination. It was a dream of turning every battlefield into a place of healing. Commander Vex stepped forward. The crystalline dominion was reluctant, he admitted. Change does not come easily to beings of crystal. But the evidence of success cannot be ignored. Your work here has saved too many lives to deny its value. The Council has approved your proposal, General Hayes announced, allowing herself a small smile. With some modifications. You'll have oversight from both military commands, but operational autonomy in medical decisions. The news rippled through the laboratory, causing excitement among both human and Zephyrian staff. But Marcus noticed Naira's light patterns shift to a deeper, more contemplative blue. Later, as they stood watching the double sunset paint the crystalline additions to the outpost in brilliant colors, she finally spoke her mind. We're not just healing bodies anymore, she said softly. We're healing the rift between our species. Every patient who leaves here becomes a witness to what's possible when we work together. Marcus nodded, understanding the weight of what they'd achieved and the responsibility that came with it. It won't be easy. There will always be those who fear change, who see cooperation as weakness. Then we'll show them strength, Naira replied, her enhanced crystal matrix glowing with determination. Not the strength of weapons or walls, but the strength of healing. Of growth. Of becoming more together than we ever could be apart. As if in response to her words, the biosynthetic patterns in her crystal structure pulsed with bright, hopeful light. Around them, the medical center hummed with activity, human doctors working alongside Zephyrian healers, sharing knowledge, saving lives, building bridges. You know, Marcus said thoughtfully, when I first tried that experimental treatment on you, I was just trying to save one life. I never imagined that you would help change the course of two civilizations. Naira finished, her silver eyes meeting his. Perhaps that's always how the greatest changes begin. Not with grand plans or mighty armies, but with a single choice to heal instead of harm. The last rays of the double sunset filtered through the crystal walls, casting rainbow patterns across the medical center. In their light, human and Zephyrian forms moved together in the dance of healing, their shadows intertwined like the futures of their species. They had created more than a medical breakthrough. They had built a blueprint for peace, written not in treaties or declarations, but in the simple, powerful language of healing. And as the stars began to emerge in the dusty sky above Outpost 7, that language spoke of hope, of unity, and of a future brighter than either species had dared to imagine alone.